Morning, church. Okay, I was out there talking with folks and just kind of enjoying the morning and did not realize that we were supposed to start church. My goodness. Okay, before we start singing, though, we have a question. Is my mic on and is it working? Yes. I get yes and I get sort of. Maybe we can turn it up a smidge. Half a smidge. Is half a smidge good? Half a smidge. That is a technical term, and you heard it here first. So we have been singing different songs for our Song for Gathering. Our August song is number 123 in the gray hymnal. It is Spirit of Life. But before we jump into the service today, I will tell you that for the most part, you all are doing the sermon. Quick, block the exits. No. So you all are doing the sermon today. So I'm going to ask you at some point to talk to each other. There's something to know if you are here in the congregation, and that is that COVID numbers are on the rise. We have masks available. The board is strongly encouraging, that's their word, strongly encouraging or highly recommending people to wear masks. So when I ask you to gather in small groups and talk to people, you might want to consider your comfort level in talking with people, and I invite you to move wherever you need to move around the sanctuary to make that work for you. If you are joining us online and you're thinking, but I'm joining on YouTube, I'm alone in my living room. First, thank you for being here. Second, you can join in the conversation either by putting things in chat, and we will make sure we get them, or by texting your comments to my cell phone. My cell phone number, isn't this something they tell you not to do? My cell phone number is 513-503-8600. So if you're joining us online and you either have a joy and sorrow to share, or you would like to, when it comes time to do this work together, put your comments in a text message to me. I promise I will get them. Okay, I think that's everything. Sorry, Peng Chang was just playing. It was really pretty. The day is bright. I'm chatting with people. It's kind of like everything church should be except for the service. I just forgot. So let us begin with song. This is number 123, Spirit of Life, and Edie Holder is not only our worship associate, but also our song leader this morning. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together we care for the church and each other. Thank you.
You're changing the order already. That's all
Bowl
right.
is rung, the chalice is lit.
Oh, there, yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome. Here, I'm only confused. Welcome to everyone who is here and everyone who is online. We welcome anyone, no matter who you are, where you come from, what you've been in the past, what you're going to be in the future. We are a non-creedal church, but we have 7 principles. The first one being the inherent worth of every human being, which is why everyone is welcome. So we're glad you're here on this bright and shiny Sunday morning. And our next hymn is 1043, Seke Aldash.
Why are we singing this hymn in church, Edie?
We are singing this hymn in church because it's in Hungarian, and it comes from a Hungarian, it's a Hungarian hymn that they sing, or they have the words for, in Romania, in the Unitarian Church in Romania, and it's got a beautiful melody and counter melody in which you're going to sing the Hungarian words and you're going to sing the English words. So the first time through, we do Hungarian, and the second time through, we do the English. Then the third time through, you get to pick and sing whichever part you want. But some of you can try the Hungarian.
Now, I'm looking out here and I see a few people who I know the Hungarian. If you would like to come forward and stand here and help Edie lead the people, that would be fine.
To Romania in April, I sang this at their Easter service. Now, I started with the English because as I was trying to practice it, for some reason I was, without accompaniment, whatever, it was easier to start for me. So I did that, and they listened very patiently and kindly. And then I got to the Hungarian, and everybody was like, oh, wow, we know what she's doing now. So it was a wonderful.
So friends, this is something that as the current administration of Hungary shows up in our news and our TV, I like to remember that there are still Unitarians in Hungary and in the mix. And we have our beginnings. One of the most important dates in our religious heritage is 1568, when the Edict of Torda was passed in the Unitarian Church, which said that everybody should be free to worship after their own conscience, right? So when you see certain strands of Hungarian current nationalistic, etc., people on your TV, just remember that there is room there also for a history of people who use their power to empower other people, to hold them up and not put them down. Those are the people we come from. When we have power, we empower others. When we have the chance to build people up, we build people up. It is a long history. It is a true history. It is a history that's tempted to just kind of erase it around the edges. Don't let anybody erase that history for you. It is important, and it is ours. Will you join with me in the words to our affirmation? This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. Thank you. The story of our church is long, and it is becoming new every day. You help it become new every day. The members of this church make it what it is. I'd like to invite Bill Gordon to come to the pulpit and share his membership moment with us.
Hi, is this on? Yeah, okay. I'm Bill Gordon. St. John's is my church and spiritual home, and it has been for close to 25 years. How did I end up here, and why am I still here? I was raised as a Quaker. Every week we went to meeting. After 15 minutes, the kids left for Sunday school. Ours was a silent Quaker meeting, no minister. People sit there waiting for the inner light to send them a message, which they then share with others. By the time I was 5 or 6, I noticed that the first person to share was always one of the same 3 or 4 people. And I asked my parents why. It didn't seem that the inner light was actually equally shared if it was only these 3 or 4 people who came up at the beginning. My parents didn't really have an answer. Of course, I learned later the answer. But my question then now sounds like something you might ask. So Quakerism is an interesting faith. It has both a formal traditional theing and thouing strand, which is very old-fashioned Christian, and a strong strand of social justice. Even as a kid, I was sort of turned off by the theing and thouing, and I found the social action strand much more appealing. Although we were a Quaker family, I was raised in it with a mix of religious traditions. Our community was predominantly Jewish. I went to public school, of course. The schools were open on the high holy days. Generally, there were 2 people in my class, me and Peter Peff, who happened to be Catholic. Everyone else was at temple. I was surrounded by Jewish traditions like bagels and lox, which my parents didn't like eating, and many of my friends had families who had survived the Holocaust and relatives who had been killed. Most of those friends refused to buy VW cars because they were German. I liked the way my Reformed Jewish friends had the ritual of the Seder and going to temple on the high holy days and eating matzah during Passover, but were basically just normal kids. I thought that was really interesting. My grandmother, the only grandparent I really knew, was her history's a little bit interesting. She was raised Jewish. Because she was a difficult kid, she was sent to Catholic convent for school. She later became a Tibetan Buddhist and kept telling me about reincarnation and the roles of the bodhisattvas in saving people for future reincarnations. I came to know one of her friends who was a Tibetan reincarnated Lama quite well over the years. Years later, I was living in Philadelphia after grad school, and I was definitely a lapsed Quaker, but I went to the historic meeting houses, the Arch Street Meeting House built in 1803, which was a very traditional, old-fashioned Quaker meeting house, and Race Street, built in the 1850s, but a very socially active meeting. That was, in fact, where a lot of the early women's movements of the 1850s started. And I went to these meetings to see if Quakerism still spoke to me. The answer? No. Oh well. 10 years later, Nancy and I decided to get married, and we wanted a church wedding, but the question was a problem. Who was going to marry a lapsed Quaker and a non-observant Methodist with agnostic tendencies? It turns out One of Nancy's favorite high school teachers was a Unitarian. Funny coincidence, my favorite high school English teacher was also a Unitarian. No, they didn't know each other. So naturally, we thought UU. We were married in the UU church in Buffalo. Interesting historic note, the UU church in Buffalo became UU about 10 years before the Unitarian and Universalist traditions merged into the UU association that we know today. When David was 4 or so, we spent a weekend in Indianapolis, and he found the Gideon Bible in the bed table and asked, well, what is a Holly Bible? You have to understand. He was almost 4, but he was reading. He had a friend named Holly, so he saw H-O-L-Y and figured that had to be Holly, and he saw B-I-B-L and figured it had to be Bibble. Nancy explained to him it was Bible, not Bibble, because it had only one B. Irate, David said, no, you're wrong. The word has 2 B's in it. He won. That forced the issue. Since we wanted David to be raised in a church, because we both felt that being raised in a church was important, we knew the only possibility was UU Church. And so we visited first, came to St. John's, and have never left. What about this church speaks to me? The music. One of the first services I came to had Kathy Roman leading a special music service of Bach choral music. One of the things I didn't like about Quakerism was that there was no music. Here at St. John's, we have great music both interwoven into the services, and that's gotten better and better over the years, and in the occasional special music services. Another thing I like is our caring for our children, religious education. Barbara Haddon asked me to teach RE, and I worked with the middle school kids for 8 years. I found that very rewarding. I think I helped the kids understand why religion matters and help them cope with situations where their friends said they wouldn't be saved because they didn't go to vacation Bible school or they didn't go to Wednesday evening Bible studies. This was really hard for the kids. A good RE program is vital for our church. I felt I was able to provide that at that time. We need to rebuild our program now that COVID has become more manageable. The other thing is the community. In this community, I can be myself, not having to guard what I say because of how others might take it. I love a community where people don't tell you what you have to think. One of David's friend's mothers couldn't understand why we took him here. She said, you have to, my kid has to go to, I'll leave the church name out, because they tell her what to think. And we didn't want anyone to tell us what to think. Other people, here I know other people have different beliefs, but we all believe in the worth and dignity of all people and believe that love is the spirit of this church. Being a member of this community means I support it with my time. I've done tech stuff for about 20 years now. RE, serving on some committees, and provide financial support. Over the years, when we were less able, we provided minimal support, but that was no problem. Now when we're a little more able, we provide more support, and we're glad to do that. So if you're interested in the church or membership, I encourage you to find Pat Brown. Wave your hand, Pat, very far back, or someone else to talk about the church. Thank you.
Did you get the reading I sent you? Did you get the reading I sent you? Okay. Bill left out that he's also our parliamentarian extraordinaire, which is a very big deal, and we are very grateful for that. Every Sunday, we set aside some time in the service for the sharing of joys and sorrows, and we do this in a couple of ways. Symbolically, we place stones in a dish of sand to represent our joys and sorrows from this past week. If you would like something spoken, you are invited to write it on a piece of paper and hand it to me or leave it on the table or give it to Edie, and we will make sure we speak it. If you are joining us online and can text me, that would work. If you want me to share a joy or sorrow. Yes. And we get to enjoy Peng Chang's beautiful playing while we do this. I invite you at this time to share your joys and sorrows. Oh, okay. It is our tradition when we lose a member of the congregation to light a candle. So we light this candle today for Bruce Getzman, who passed away this past week. And Edie, would you be so good as to place a few more stones for the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken? And one for those who need us and have not yet found us. Thank you. Yes. We light this flame with humble appreciation and a little bit of awe and wonder at the way that we share with each other, and in so doing, we make our joys greater and our sorrows less. Danny has come back after 4 years away, not counting Danny, but, welcome home, with a list of joys, starting with, I think this says your mom. Okay, I'm going to include your mom. Always include your mom. She's kind of awesome, yes. And he is also starting a social work program in this season. Very, very good, very good. And you have impending a surgery coming up, yes? Yes. Well, we will be with you in your struggles and your joys and appreciate you so very much. Choir practice is on Thursdays. I know you sing, so yes. Will you join me in a moment of prayer? Holy One of blessing, we name your presence in us and among us. When there is joy, it is easy to see the goodness in life, in people, in places. When there is sorrow, when there is sadness, when there is pressure and strain, it is harder. Help us keep our attention on the good. Let us not be unaware of the struggles, but let us know that even in the midst of the great struggles, there are people who rise up to do good work. We are mindful of a hurting world. We are also mindful that many of us have relatives and friends and relations in eastern Kentucky. We pray that the good work of restoration continues in that land. May we be a support to one another. May we choose to bless the world in all the ways that we can, at all the times that we can. So may it be. Amen. Edie, would you share a reading with us? This is Choose to Bless the World by Rebecca Parker.
Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice and anesthetization or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human fellowship, the company of earth at the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting.
Thank you. Thank you. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Heard it here first, folks. Maybe not. Maybe we've heard it before. All right. So my goal today is to do a teeny tiny sermon, half a sermon, a sermonette, a smidge of a sermon. And there's reasons for that, which I will get to in just a minute. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to say this, and I'm not entirely sure that I'm speaking for a whole lot of people, so help me out. If I say that many of us who grew up with religion of any sort experience something of blaming and shaming that sometimes comes with church, does that sound true? Some of that, like, we're all sinners, or the God loves you in spite of the fact that you are unworthy? Like, why can't they just stop with God loves you? Seems like enough to me. Or if you are a woman, maybe you heard that you are the cause of all humanity's falling out of the grace of God. You are responsible. Yep. So this isn't uncommon, right? Like, we've heard these things. I think maybe part of the reason you're here in this space is because if you heard those things from your religion, you said, no. I might really enjoy religion. I might enjoy getting people together and doing the good work. I might enjoy the praise and the ritual. I might enjoy any number of things, but I reject that blaming part of religion. I don't think it has to be there, but I think it often is. Beginning with our deficits orients us to respond to the world in a certain way. Carrying shame and blame blunts our ability to respond fully and zestfully to the world. And the world needs zestfulness. The world needs zestfulness more than it needs self-criticism. This season we have been working with the book Ladder to the Light by Stephen Charleston. And he reminds us that we are much more than our inadequacies. It is good, even necessary, to name and claim the good we do. So, if I gave you a compliment, what would your first response be? Be honest. Would it be thank you, or would it be, oh, a nervous laugh? Yes. Like maybe not believing it entirely, maybe distancing yourself from the compliment. It's somehow much more difficult to stand in the face of a compliment and just take it, isn't it? Like, practice that. Next time somebody gives you a compliment, just say thank you and accept it and believe them, trust them that they are telling you the truth. Like, it sounds easy when I'm saying it now, but you get out into the world and try it out and see how it feels. Yes. There's always been a caution about compliments that you don't want to get too big for your britches or things like that. Part of what it means to be truly blessed is to really believe, like deep down in our bones, in the marrow of our bones, believe that we have the wisdom and knowledge and power and grace to do good things in the world. So when we speak of the inner light of conscience, or when we speak of a spirit that abides with us, or the love that will hold us and not let us go, we're talking about this promise that you are really, truly, deeply blessed. Because the truth is, every religion that comes with a part that says that you are broken somehow also comes with a part that says that you are beloved. I just want us to stop right there. You are beloved. Hear that, hold on to it, and live into it. In Charleston's book, he uses the term spirit. How many of you have picked it up or read it or read part of it? So we had a couple of meetings. The first meeting we had about a dozen people. The second meeting we had, 4 or 5? So I know some of you are reading it. He uses the term spirit with great fluidity because he's talking, remember, he's Choctaw, and born and raised Choctaw, worked as an Episcopal priest. So his vocabulary is weaving between these traditions, and in the work he's doing, he is trying to keep that weave open enough that you and I can find a place for ourselves. So for him, spirit is a manifestation of divinity as his ancestors understood it, and it is the God of his church both. For me, often it is the voice of inner conscience and a literary, poetic effort of generations to make sense of the world. For you, maybe, if I may paraphrase Isay Barnwell, for you, maybe spirit is the God that calls you in the morning dew. Whatever spirit means to you, the complexities do not stop with a simple definition, for spirit is both universal and personal. This is the theology part, right? Spirit is big out here, holding us all, and it is acting on us, calling us into a different way of being. Most importantly, spirit is blessing, and spirit is in direct communication with us. Let me read to you from Charleston's books. He says, spirit is speaking directly to you, to me, to any of us who want to follow a spiritual path. If we want to be a light in the world, we have to believe we are capable of being that light. In other words, we have to believe in ourselves. No matter how much we have been programmed or conditioned not to by voices that denigrate us or make us feel inadequate. In the eyes of the Spirit, we are not weak or small. Let me say that a different way. In the eyes of the Spirit, you are neither weak nor small. You are a masterpiece of endless possibility. The first step is accepting that possibility. So I changed his wording there, but you take my meaning. To assume that we are deeply blessed means knowing that we already have the strength and creativity, the imagination and the capacity to do the work of blessing. Here's the truth. Many of us have been raised in judgmental religious traditions. We may have grown up being told that we were sinful or guilty. Many of us come from marginalized or oppressed communities. We may have been put down because of our ethnicity or threatened because of our sexuality. Many of us have been abused as children or battered as adults. In all these ways, darkness has penetrated deep within our hearts. We believe what we have told. We feel inadequate. That is Charleston's words. Those are Charleston's words. So here you have this religious tradition that on one hand says that you are less than, and on the other hand says that you are the container of all possibilities. And you have Rebecca Parker out there in our reading saying, choose who you will be, choose what you will listen to. Right? As individuals, we navigate this all the time. Wake up in the morning and feel like, oh, again? Get on with the day, encounter good people, and say thank you again. As a congregation, as a gathered body, as the Church of St. John's, we can choose. We can choose because we have congregational polity. We can choose because we are the church. There's no on-high person telling us what we must be, telling us what we must do. It is up to us to decide who we will be and then live into that. It is not enough to say we want light. We have to be the light. So this is the part where I promised you I was going to get you to do the work. And again, if you are online, please text me. I promise I will text you back, and we will be in conversation. Or you can put notes in the chat. That will work too. Monica, is the chat up and active? I'm going to assume it is. Yes, thumbs up from the back. So we can hear you, and we know you are out there, and you are part of this community also. I'm going to give you one more quote, because I can't help but to love this. This comes from Howard Thurman. He says, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go and do it. What the world needs is people who have come alive." Let me be really clear. What the world needs right now is churches who have come alive. There is too much at stake in our political and spiritual landscape for churches like ours to not be alive. All right, so we have a little bit of time, maybe take 5 minutes. Does that feel manageable? All right, now get into groups. Groups of what size? Anywhere between 2 and 5, maybe, or 8. And be mindful of masking. Like, if you don't want to be with a group because there are people who are not masked, find a group where everybody is masked. And then I want to ask you, really ask you, and some people I need to drift down to be with the families with children in the chapel. I want to ask you, in all seriousness, if this church is truly deeply blessed, how do we in turn bless the world? If this church, if you believe this church is really, truly, deeply blessed, how do we bless the world? And if you just got here today, this is your first day at church, that's fine. If church is a power, a force for good, how do we go about being a force for good in the world? All right, my friends. Man, I kind of hate to interrupt because I know there's some good conversations going, but I would remind you that there's coffee hour afterwards. Next week there's a picnic, which you should sign up for because there's also the promise of ice cream. So there's not only conversation, but ice cream. The sign-up sheet is in the hallway. Yes, yes. So I love the conversation. We have a microphone up here that's live. Would anybody like to share a word or two about the things that you value? The one comment that came in on chat was about the importance of having a robust RE program. I will tell you that my eldest child came into this world as an avowed, ferocious atheist. I don't think she would have been okay in any other church but ours. So I appreciate that in many ways. What are some other things that we thought? And you can either come up to the microphone and speak for yourself. If you say it, I will repeat it so that everybody can hear it. Danny, yes. Activism and being out there in the community. I saw something online the other day that said that so-and-so public figure says that abortion is a moral debate. And I'm like, yes, it is. And I have religion and I have opinions on abortion, and mine are just as valid as yours. And my opinion is that abortion is a basic human right that cannot be eradicated because the court says so. Thank you very much. But I have the moral grounding for that also. But that's a whole other sermon. I got distracted from one sermon already. We'll leave that alone. Melissa, yes, ma'am.
We actually talked about several different things. In a nutshell, we mentioned the Split the Plate and how important that is to support other organizations in the community. We talked about the value and the importance of participating with IHN. And we brought up the question, those are really important, valuable things that the church does in bits and pieces of the congregation at a time. And is there something that we could do as a larger, visible presence in Cincinnati that would get people to see that we are a living church, that we are active and connected and visible in Cincinnati as a bigger organization? And I don't really know what the answer is to that, but I think it's an interesting question we might want to consider.
Thank you. Thank you. So.
I think it's hard to put away that sort of, I'm not okay, that we all learned when we were young, the sort of guilt or constant self-evaluation that we're not okay. And even though I think we sort of talked about that in our group, that we've tried to put away all of that, I've noticed as a congregation, we get together criticizing ourselves more than we acknowledge how much good we do for each other and for the community. And that's okay to do, to remember. I mean, as a Buddhist, you're supposed to remember your sila as a foundation for your practice. And sila is a Pali word meaning, it's S-I-L-A, meaning your history of compassionate and ethical action, which is the foundation. That's not pride, that's not self-centeredness, that's the foundation. And I think if we could acknowledge how much, that's why we're all here, and then we get in here and start criticizing. Mm-hmm. So let's also try to remember every day and build on how much good we do. That's sort of my thought.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to take a little time out to share from Mary Darner. We take risks to step outside of our comfort zone and make positive connection with folks we see as different from ourselves. So got that positivity mentioned again. Joanna, yes.
So our little group, can you hear me in the back? Yeah, okay. Our little group had 2 brand new people, which is always wonderful to hear why they came to St. John's. And both of them expressed some interest in social justice. One said, it's an all hands on deck kind of time. And my next question was, do you live in Kentucky or Ohio? Because I'm serious. It's a serious question because the work is somewhat different in those two environments, and there are ways to engage in either place, and we have to keep our focus on both of those. And so I'm going to talk about the Kentucky UU Justice Action Network after the service, and I know there are Ohio ways to connect too. So the point to me was we need to make sure when new people come in that they begin quickly to see their options for engagement about social justice. And Pat asked me to mention the UU Council of Greater Cincinnati as being a tool for social justice as well.
I hate to stand up in front of people, but I'm passionate about IHN, which is called Found House now. Wanda Crawford came to the board the other day, and this is going to be a long, ongoing conversation, but I decided to proselytize in my little group, and now I'm here in front of all of you. There's conversation of being able to be a host congregation now. There's need for that, and we have talked in this congregation for several years about being able to rally around one project, not just one, but as a whole group participate in one thing. And if we have people staying here just overnight from 5 o'clock in the evening until 7 a.m. the next morning for a week, 2 or 3 times a year, or 4, and we provide people who stay with them, we provide children can participate and play with the children who are part of these families. We provide food. We can do these different things. I think we have the volunteer capability. I'm a little concerned about the costs. Plus, we need to kind of move things around downstairs and figure out how we're going to fit cots and so on. We can get cots from elsewhere. I'm going a little overboard, aren't I?
You're great. I was gonna just looking for some stats to support you.
Anyway, it's just an idea I wanted to make the people here start thinking about. It would make us more visible too.
I think that's wonderful, and I want to point out that when we have our beginning part of the service and we say that we are the church of the open mind and the loving hearts and the helping hands, that all of those matter, and you can't do any one thing without the others. So there are lots of political action groups that you can get a hold of, right? What makes Kujan or UU Justice Ohio, UJO, different is that they are founded in our morality and belief system. And there's always that invitation to take the conversation back to your spirit. Erna's right. I just stood up there and in 2 minutes I said, this is a tough pass, now let's set it down and get on with it. How realistic is that? Right? Like we're always going to be struggling with the I can't do this or I'm not good enough to do this. And there's a difference in acting to bless the world because you believe that you are blessed and acting to bless the world because you think you have to make up for something or scrub away your sins or prove something to some God. And I'm telling you, you really don't have to prove anything to anybody. You are whole and holy already. Now, with that, you are free to go bless the world. You don't must go do things. So let me tell you about Found House. I find this really powerful. So census for Found House, these are the families that need shelter this week. Family number 1 is 1 adult, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old. 1 adult, a 2-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 17 and an 18-year-old. 1 adult, a 12-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. 1 adult and a 17-year-old. 2 adults, a 16-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And there's been more families added since that was sent out. So I got that message. I was sitting on the couch in my living room with my 16-year-old son, and I said, Anthony, that's like if you and I were living in the church for a week, because that's the only place we would have to live. I would hope and pray that there would be a place as warm and welcoming as St. John's to take us in. I also want to say something else. I made a mistake. I went to the wrong training. Y'all, you know, in The Princess Bride, where they keep on saying that word does not mean what you think it means? Like, that's a real thing. So I saw this training that was like getting people together to do good work or something like that. And I just assumed it was about rebuilding the community, because community of church is so important. Poll after poll tells us that Americans feel isolated and lonely, and that's without COVID. Having a place where you can come and be accepted just as you are is life-saving. The work of community is justice-filled, right? It is really, really important. I'm distracting myself. So the point is, this training was advertised in a way that I thought it was going to be about building teams at church, getting people together to do things. I'm like, ooh, we could build teams at church. I like building teams at church. So I logged on. It was not about building teams at church. It was about building teams across churches, or across your church and some civic organization, or across denominations or faith traditions, and working with people, 2 people from this church, 3 people from that mosque, and a half dozen from the synagogue to go get something done. Sign me up. I want to be a part of that community. That sounds like so much fun. The point is, we don't have to always save the world by ourselves. We have good company. We have a lot of good company out there of people who will participate with us. One more thing, and this is coming on the heels of RE, and also some of the concerns now that Roe has been tossed out the window, trampled in the dust, and discarded, and a large portion of the population is less than human. Not that I have opinions. One of the things we do for the world, one of the ways we bless the world, is by providing excellent sex education that is age appropriate and responsible. We have to keep on doing that. It's been on pause because of COVID. It will come back. There you go. Okay. The hour is growing late. I love you people, and I want to hear more, but we need to take up an offering. So I'm going to invite Peng Cheng to play, and I'm going to tell you that that next week and the week after, we will actually have a separate offering just to go to the flood relief in Kentucky. Y'all have to realize that along with like all the infrastructure problems and everything, they are providing funds so that people can bury their children, because that's the extent of the devastation. So give today as you are willing and able. Everything that you have said is important and so much more. We can choose to bless the world. And meantime, and next week, we will ask you to give also for the flood relief efforts. Because if I have $2 that I can give to the flood relief effort, it's kind of hard to go through all the machinations to give the $2. But if all of us chip in $1, we're suddenly making a good-sized gift from St. John's. So that's the reason we're doing it this way, making it easy and making it possible. So I'm going to invite you to give as you are able, and thank you. Thank you, Peng Chang. By way of announcements, another reminder, picnic when? Next Sunday. Sign-up sheet where? Out there, waiting for your name. Yes, so that is something that is happening. I hope to have a special edition of the e-news out coming up next week about sabbatical. Part of putting together today's service was thinking about the nature of trust, because part of the work of sabbatical is that the minister and the congregation trust each other to do the work that is needed to do to come together and be more fabulous on the other side of sabbatical. This congregation is truly and deeply blessed. Also, we are the people who make this congregation go. You are needed in your vision, in your passion, and in your leadership. Kathy has an invitation for you.
Good morning. This is a moment from the board and the leadership moment. And there's two other members of leadership that is in the sanctuary. I'd ask them to stand so that you could recognize them. Bill Gordon and Rick Mitz. Alicia is not here today, so I am your immediate past president of the board, and in my role, I serve as the connection to the Leadership Development Committee. The members of the Leadership Committee are responsible to recruit qualified candidates to serve as board members, endowment fund trustee, and future leader committee members. In addition, we hope to grow future church leaders by offering education opportunities throughout the year. More about that in a minute. First, we want to share with you that Zoe Waldridge, who has been serving as the Director of Programs, has submitted her resignation to the board, citing her responsibilities at home and with her new job. We thank Zoe for the enthusiastic energy she has brought to us on the board and look forward to seeing the future ways that she will engage with St. John's. Unfortunately, as I was writing this, I did not realize that we had another resignation of our vice president. So I will share more of that later. The Leadership Committee is seeking to identify members to fill these positions, the Director of Program, Finance Director, and now Vice President. So we ask for you to speak to one of the committee members, to me, to send us an email, to call us. Just let us know if you're interested in some of the positions. Our committee also wishes to grow St. John's leaders for the future. We envision doing this by helping members learn more about the Unitarian Universalism, about our church governance system, about serving as leaders of our congregation. We are beginning and planning for leadership education opportunities this fall. If you have an interest that you want us to focus upon, please let us know. Thank you.
We are a church on the move. This has been a trying 2 years. And what was that phrase you used, Bill? Like, COVID has become more manageable? I liked that. We're not done, but we are managing. Our closing hymn is Sia Hamba. This has some words in it that you can feel free to change to suit your mood. We are walking, or we are marching, or we are dancing in the light of God or love.
Yeah, I thought we'd sing it original Zulu, then we'd sing the verse, "We Are Marching," and then I'm going to shout out a couple others, so we're going to sing it several times through. Now, I know you're all proficient in Zulu, right? Okay. It's a click language. Let's see if I can do it. Siyahamba kukwen kenkos. I didn't do it well. Siyahamba kukwen kwenkos. But if you're singing, you can't get the click in, so sing out. We don't care if you butcher it, and I won't tell my relations. I have family in South Africa. They're actually Xhosa, but Xhosa and Zulu are very close languages. So, let's go. We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching. We are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. Singing. We are singing in the light of God. 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 We are singing. We are singing. Oh, we are singing in the light of God. We are singing. We are singing. Oh, we are singing in the light of God. Moving. We are moving in the light of God. 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 We are moving. We are moving. Ooh, we are moving in the light of God. We are moving. We are moving. Ooh, we are moving in the light of God. Walking. We are walking in the light of God. 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 We are walking. We are walking. Oh, we are walking in the light of God. We are walking. We are walking. Oh, we are
Friends, here is the truth. You have a light that shines. You are truly deeply blessed. You didn't have to earn it. You didn't have to check anything off a list. It came with you by the nature of you. And when we gather together, our light shines brighter, our blessings grow. Together, we bless the world. Go in peace, stay for coffee and conversation. There might even be cookies, you never know. Be well, my friends. Thank you, Edie.